My grandma, who we called Tutu, was a Jehovah's Witness for 50 plus years of her life. Through the years, I had prayed many times for her. I had tried to witness to her, to tell her about God's free gift of salvation, because I wanted her to be in eternity with Him and with me also at some point together. And back in 1996, we had the opportunity that she came to live with our family. So she was with our family the last 4 years of her life. And during that time, the prayer of her knowing who Jesus was, truly knowing who He was, got more immediate, more passionate maybe. Even at one point, I had even asked Jesus, use me. If that's what it takes, I'm willing to let that happen. Use me whatever it takes, that she would take your free gift and be in eternity forever. So one day, Tutu and I were here at the house, and she was doing laundry, which was awesome, and I was in the kitchen, and I heard her collapse in the laundry room. And before I even knew what was going on, I was actually over her, and we had discovered not maybe a year or so before that she had an aneurysm in her abdomen. And the doctor had told us that without surgery, which of course she decided not to do surgery because there was a chance that she would have to accept some blood transfusions, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. But without surgery, that if this aneurysm burst, that she would be gone within 30 seconds. So I got back to the laundry room over her, and she was on the floor, and I just knelt over her, and she was gone. And I just cried out to God, you give me one more chance. Give me one more chance to tell her about you. And in that instant, she opened her eyes. And I talked to her for just a couple seconds. There was a flurry of activity around. Scotty was here with me, and he was making the 911 call to get an ambulance. We were calling my dad, Eldon. The neighbor was over here helping with the children and stuff too. And the ambulance came and talked to Tutu, got her into the ambulance, and I was allowed to ride in the front seat. And on the way down, I just kept praying, God, I know this is my one time. I've asked you for one more time to tell her about you, and I'm going to claim it, and you let me do this. So we get down to the hospital, and my daddy's there already, and they take Tutu one way, and Daddy and I have to go in the other way to check her in. We get that done fairly quickly, and a doctor comes out to get us and takes us back to a room, and he's telling us that we have two options. They can rush her back into surgery to try and stop the bleeding, or we can just hold her and let her go. And my dad looked at me and said, I don't know what to do. And I said, we're gonna go hold her. And so they took us back to her, and I went right up to her and cradled her head in my arms, and my face was down to her ear. And I had a hold of her hand, and as I was talking to her, I was just telling her, Tutu, all the times that I told you how much Jesus loved you, and that this is a free gift. You don't have to do anything to get this gift. And I reminded her of the mansions that we talked about, the streets of gold, all those things. I don't even remember everything, but I just talked and talked into her ear. And with only the strength of God did I say the next words, because I never would have thought to say, I wouldn't have said them. But I just said to her that, Tutu, I know right now that Jesus is standing in front of you with his hand outstretched to you. And it doesn't matter anything you have said, anything you have done in the past, anything that you have believed, this time right now matters. And I said, Tutu, just take his hand. And I was holding hers, and I just said, Tutu, when you take his hand, he's ready, he's there, he loves you. But when you take Jesus' hand, I want you to squeeze mine. And that quickly, she squeezed my hand and she was gone. And I just kind of stayed by her head, and I was just praying, God, this awesome thing just happened. I have prayed for my grandma for so many years, and I've cried out, wanting her to know who you are. And I asked you for one more chance, and you gave it to me. And I asked her when she took his hand to squeeze mine, and she did. And I was just amazed, and also thinking, there's no way anybody's ever going to believe this story. This is just crazy. Nobody's going to believe it. So Eldon was at the hospital by then, and we did what we needed to do at the hospital, and then he brought me home. And we were home at the house for long at all, and my neighbor, who had also been praying for Tutu all these years, she had been over earlier before when the ambulance got here, and she walked in my front door, and she just kind of busted in the front door, and she looked at me and she said, Lori, she said, as I was praying for you and Tutu today, God told me to tell you that you received a gift from him. And I was just so amazed, and I looked at her and I said, let me tell you the gift, because you're part of that gift, because you prayed for her. So I was able to tell everybody that was at the house what happened. And again, even I'm not, I'm thinking that this story is just too unbelievable. So the next morning, Eldon had gone to work to take care of what he needed to so that we could, head out to Indiana. I put the boys on the bus to go to school for the day so that I could get done what I needed to do so that we could go to Indiana. And I went back to her bedroom, and she had her own space back there. And I sat in her chair, and I just started crying out to God. And her phone rang, and none of us ever answered her phone because that was her room, and we honored her things in her room. And I never answered her phone the entire time she lived here. But her phone rang, and right away I picked up her phone. And I'm thinking, what am I doing answering her phone? Anyhow, I pick up her phone, and I just said hello. And the voice on the other end was her doctor, who we had just seen the day before for something else, of course. And when we were in the emergency room, the ER doctor had told me that he had actually called the family doctor and let him know what was going on. So the Christian doctor she had been seeing the whole time that she had been out with us had also been witnessing to her and praying for her. So now her phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's her doctor. And her doctor just says, Lori, as I was praying for you and Tutu yesterday, God told me to tell you that you received a gift from him. And again, I'm like, this is just crazy. And so I told him what the gift was, because he was part of that also. He had also witnessed to her, and I prayed for her. And I look back on that time, and even the times that I doubt that any of that really happened, God confirmed that to me. God made himself known. He showed himself to me in sending two people that aren't even connected to say the exact same words to me, to tell me that I received a gift from him. Am I worthy of a gift from him? No. But he loves to give his children gifts. And the prayers that I prayed for my Tutu were years and years and years in the making. Did I ever think that she would ever come to him? I prayed so. And just knowing that God heard my prayers, the doctors were amazed that she lived as long as she did, but I know why she lived that long. She should have been gone in 30 seconds, and she lived for at least an hour so that I could tell her one more time about Jesus. And I just want to encourage everybody that no matter what the situation is or how long you've been praying, keep praying that prayer because God hears. We don't always get to see the answer. That's the hard part when we don't. But when we do get to see the answer, make sure you let people know because God is awesome. And he desires each one of us to be with him in eternity. And I just want to encourage everyone to keep praying and to keep witnessing to people who don't know him so that one day we can all be there together. May God's name be praised.